A family problem appears and everyone looks in the same direction. Not at the oldest, not the loudest. At the most financially stable, the one who always handled things, the one who never fell apart, the one who always stayed responsible. This is usually the moment something changes. Stability stops being protection, it becomes expectation. And expectation quietly turns you into the person problems travel toward. When someone becomes the stable one in a family, pressure rarely arrives all at once. It arrives in small movements, small requests, small expectations. Cover this bill, help with this situation, be patient with this problem. Stability quietly signals capacity. Capacity quietly attracts responsibility. Over time, families begin adjusting around the stable person without saying it out loud. Not because they are selfish, because stability looks like safety, and people naturally move towards safety when pressure appears. This is how financial pressure begins reorganizing roles. The stable person becomes the absorber, the one expected to handle impact without collapsing, the one expected to stay calm, the one expected to find solutions. This rarely feels dramatic, it feels normal, until the stable person notices something subtle. Problems rarely move toward the unstable, they move toward the reliable. Financial stability does not just reduce your own pressure, it often increases the pressure that finds you. The more stable you appear, the more people assume you can handle one more weight, one more request, one more emergency. This is how hierarchy begins forming quietly, not through authority, through absorption. And the person who absorbs the most pressure slowly becomes the one everyone expects to hold everything together. Families often decide who becomes the stable one long before money is involved. It usually begins with behavior. The responsible child, the quiet one, the one who did not create extra problems, the one who learned early that staying calm kept things stable. Some children learn that being low maintenance reduces pressure in the house. Some learn that being reliable keeps things from getting worse. Over time, this turns into identity, not because someone assigns it, because survival teaches it. The child who adapts becomes the adult who adapts. The child who carried emotional stability often becomes the adult who carries financial stability. Families rarely say this directly, but they often remember who handled pressure well. When financial stability appears later in life, families often attach that new stability to an old role. The responsible one becomes the stable one. The adaptable one becomes the dependable one. This is why financial pressure often finds the same person repeatedly, not only because they have money, because they have a history of holding things together. Stability becomes proof of capability. Capability becomes expectation, and expectation rarely moves once it finds a reliable place to land. Families do not only respond to money logically, they respond to it instinctively. The nervous system constantly scans for where stability exists. Who has income, who has space, who has margin, who looks like they will not collapse under pressure. This is rarely discussed openly, but it shapes behavior. When stress appears, people move toward the person who looks safest, not emotionally safest, structurally safest. Financial stability signals structural safety, and structural safety attracts reliance. This is why the stable person often receives pressure faster than anyone else. The brain inside the family system begins sorting risk. Who can handle this? Who cannot? Who is already struggling? Who is still standing? The person still standing often becomes the answer. Not because they volunteered, because stability signals survival capacity, and survival systems always move toward capacity. This is why many stable people feel something confusing. They feel proud of their stability, but also heavier because of it. Because stability does not only change your life, it changes how the entire system relates to you. The nervous system begins treating you like the shock absorber, the place impact can land without destroying the structure. And once someone becomes the shock absorber, pressure rarely chooses a different direction. At some point, the stable person begins noticing something uncomfortable. Their stability is no longer just theirs. It becomes part of the family system. Their success becomes shared security. Their responsibility becomes shared expectation. And slowly, a quiet identity conflict begins forming. Am I stable for myself, or am I stable for everyone? This question rarely gets asked out loud because loyalty is involved. The stable person often feels two forces pulling at the same time. One force says, protect your progress, protect what you built. The other says, don't abandon the people who depended on you. Financial hierarchy creates this invisible loyalty pressure. The more stable someone becomes, the harder it becomes to step back without feeling guilt. Not because someone demands it, because identity begins attaching to the role. The reliable one, the responsible one, the one who holds things together. This is why many stable people struggle to say no even when they should. Saying no can feel like breaking character, like abandoning the role that kept the family stable. But this is where the quiet cost appears. Stability can slowly stop feeling like freedom and start feeling like a position you're expected to maintain for everyone else. Financial pressure inside families rarely shows up as commands. It shows up as patterns. Who gets called first when something breaks? Who gets asked for advice when decisions get serious? Who receives the late-night message when someone can't handle a situation alone? These patterns form without agreement. They form through repetition. The person who solved problems before becomes the person expected to solve them again. Money quietly reinforces this pattern. The one with financial margin often becomes the one expected to create margin for others, not always through giving money, sometimes through absorbing instability, offering time, offering patience, offering structure. This is how financial hierarchy becomes visible without anyone naming it. One person becomes the stabilizer. Others become the ones stabilized. This is not about intention, it's about structural gravity. Families move pressure toward the place where collapse seems least likely. This is why the stable person often notices something subtle over time. Their stability does not reduce how much pressure they find, it increases how much they are expected to hold without reacting. The more capable someone appears, the less room they are given to struggle. And this is how stability quietly becomes a role that others begin depending on. Over time, this pressure begins changing behavior. The stable person often becomes more careful with decisions, more protective of income, more selective of risks. Not because ambition disappeared, because more depends on them now. Financial stability can slowly reduce personal freedom without anyone noticing. The more people rely on you, the harder it becomes to make unstable choices. Career risks feel heavier, moves feel riskier. Even saying no feels more complicated. This is where hierarchy begins narrowing behavior. The stable person often becomes predictable, reliable, controlled, while others remain flexible, not because personality differs, because pressure differs. This is why many stable people start feeling something they rarely say out loud, that their success increased their responsibility but reduced their flexibility, that their stability gave them respect but also tied them to expectations. This is where financial hierarchy reveals its hidden trade-off. Stability can expand your security while quietly shrinking your freedom to act only for yourself. And once others begin depending on that stability, stepping outside that role can start feeling dangerous, not because it's impossible, because the cost of instability no longer belongs only to you. This is why stability inside families rarely stays personal. It becomes positional. One person becomes the one problems move toward, not because they asked for it, because they could hold it. Over time, something subtle happens. The stable person stops just being stable, they become the place others expect stability to exist. And this is where the uncomfortable realization usually appears. Stability does not only change how safe you feel, it changes how necessary you become. Not who loves more, not who tries harder, who became the structure everyone else started leaning on.